welcome to Career Assessment Toolkit. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to our moderator today, Danielle. Take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Grace, and good afternoon, everybody, and good morning to some. And again, welcome to the Career Assessment Toolkit webinar. Again, my name is Danielle Cottrell. I am a workforce analyst in the Employment and Training Administration at the National Office in DC, and I have the pleasure in serving as your moderator for today. So with that, why don't we go ahead and start with a few introductions. So I'm going to pass things over to my colleague, Mike, to introduce his team and to get us started. Mike, take it away.
Thanks, Danielle. I'm Mike Ellsworth. I'm the Program Director for CareerOneStop, and I'll be answering your questions in the chat in real time all the time. I'd like to introduce Tricia Dahlman. Tricia.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, everyone. I'm Tricia Dahlman, and I'm one of the managers on the CareerOneStop team. I work with outreach, marketing, and operations. I've been working in state government for 23 years, and most of that time I've spent working on state and national career information products like CareerOneStop. I'll pass it over to Julie next to introduce herself.
Hi, good morning for me, good afternoon for you. Some of you, I'm Julie Remington. I'm the content strategist for CareerOneStop, which translates to I develop content for our websites and tools. I create videos. I conduct research with different groups of our users, and I test our website usability when we develop new content. My background is in career counseling, and I've also worked as a planner for employment and training services for the state of Minnesota. It's great to have you here today. Back to you, Danielle.
All right, well, thank you so much. So I will pass things back to you guys to get it started. I think that's starting with Tricia. Take it away.
Wonderful. Thanks, Danielle. And thanks again to everyone for joining us today. The goal for today's webinar is to introduce you to the 4 career assessment tools on CareerOneStop, how to use them, and how they can be leveraged with your customers to explore career options and paths to employment. Julie and I are really excited about today's topic. We think the assessment tools are great for you all to know about, especially since they're free, easy to use, and available for all types of job seekers and career explorers. Our agenda for today is going to first spend a few minutes on an overview of the CareerOneStop website, especially if you're not familiar with this tool. Then we're going to spend most of our time going through the 4 assessment tools that explore interests, skills, work values, and previous employment. Then we're going to leave time at the end to address questions you've entered for us in the chat. Like Mike said, he's going to be running through answers, but we'll leave that time just to discuss some of the themes and questions that you have for us. And one more note to, before we get started, we're going to look at the 4 tools and a couple other sites, our pages on our site today. So we want to make sure you can find everything after the presentation. That file in the file share box are all of the links that we're going to look at today. So that might be one you want to download so that you can have an easy reference to the tools that we look at. So to get us started, here is our CareerOneStop homepage that is available at CareerOneStop.org. And there are 3 main things, if you're not familiar with CareerOneStop, that we want you to remember about the site today. The first is that CareerOneStop is a comprehensive career, education, and job resource. We are national in scope, so we serve all 50 states and U.S. territories. But we also display local information where available. So you're going to get the national information, state-specific, and then local information and data where available. We're also trustworthy, so we're sponsored by the U.S. Department of Labor, Employment and Training Administration, so we bring quality data and reliable resources together into one system for you. And we're also free for you and your customers to use. There's absolutely no cost with CareerOneStop, and there are no user account requirements. User accounts is actually functionality we're working on now to add in the future so that you'll be able to save and share items, but an account will never be required to use the site. I think the best way to get a sense of what we have on the website will actually be to go out to the live site and share my screen with you all. we'll just bring up that screen share functionality. Okay, hopefully we're getting this set up so that you see the CareerOneStop website on your screen now. And I think the best way to kind of tell you about the different content and tools we have on the site is to go across this main navigation at the top. So our first section, Explore Careers, is going to have everything from the self-assessments that we're talking about and focusing on today, as well as lots of different ways to learn about careers. We have cluster information, career profiles, and videos. We also have some content about setting career goals and planning out your career. The next section is Find Training, and that's where you're going to get information about all the different types of training, everything from high school equivalency to professional development, how to pay for training, so how much do the different options cost, and then planning out your path, so deciding what education and training is right for you or making a training plan. Job search is the next section, and as you can see, this is where we have the bulk of our content. So we have everything from planning out your job search and creating a plan, a big section on networking and where to find the job. We also have a lot of content around resumes and job applications, interviewing and salary negotiation, excuse me, as well as general job search tips. Now, our next two sections on the site are where we have all of our tools. So our Find Local Help is where you'll find all of the local workforce services. So obviously we promote the American Job Centers in this section. Also, a lot of our employment and training programs, anything from older worker programs to youth and reentry programs. Our community services like Job Club Finders and Library Finders. Workforce Development Board Finders and Youth Committee Finders, and then where you would find unemployment benefits in your state. The next section is our Toolkit, and that's going to have our tools related to our content areas. So all of the assessment tools that we look at today will be in this section under careers, as well as our occupation profile. We have training tools like a local training finder and scholarship finder. Skills section like our skills matcher. A job section where our job finder is, as well as our business finder to find employers in your area. And then a whole section on wages, so for example our salary finder, some industry reports, as well as some state and local tools as well. And then the last section, resources for, if we have any specific websites or content areas specific to audience, this is where you would find those links. So we have some specialty sites for youth and young adults, for example, workers with a criminal conviction, veterans and military personnel, and more. The other link I want to point out at the very top of our page is a link to translate the whole site into Spanish. So all of the content and the navigation will translate, and all of the documents that you can download on our site are available in both English and Spanish. Then I'm going to bring you all the way down to the footer of the site and just point out a couple other good links down there for you. This first section has a kind of a repeat of our content areas, but this last link is also to the video library. If you're looking for any video content, we do have more than 500 career or career cluster or skill or ability videos that you might want to check out. The next section called Our Sites are where those specialty portals for different audiences are located. Our help section has a great resource called Data Sources. We get a lot of questions about where our data comes from, and so that link can be a great resource if you get questions as well about where the data comes from and how often it's updated. We also have this news center at the bottom, which has outreach materials, so if you're looking for flyers or brochures to use after today. We do have a blog, and we post weekly articles there, which is a great way to keep updated on current topics, as well as this CareerOneStop news link, which has our newsletter, our quarterly newsletter that you can sign up for. And just one more link at the bottom, very, very bottom, there is a Contact Us link. And after today's presentation, you're using the site and you have a question, a new question that comes up, or have some information that you want to share with us, that Contact Us link is always the best way to reach us, because then it'll get routed to the person best to answer your question. So I want to point that out. So that's a really quick overview of CareerOneStop, but if you're not familiar with it, hopefully that gives you a sense of the type of content and tools that we offer. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Julie.
Thank you. You know, this is a favorite topic of ours, as you can tell. And I want to say there are a number of meaningful ways to explore careers that you may use in your work already or that you had in your training. In almost every case, they do start with career assessment. And what we're showing you here is an example of steps that I like to use with clients. As you can see, assessment forms the foundation of all the other steps. So why is assessment so fundamental? Career assessment helps us ask questions like, who am I? What do I like? What am I good at? What makes a career meaningful to me? What are the strengths and skills and knowledge I have to offer? And given all of that, what types of occupations make sense for me to pursue? One recommendation we have after today's session, if you haven't taken these assessments, we really encourage you to take each of the assessments we demonstrate today and consider how your own interests, skills, values relate to your career. That can help you choose an appropriate assessment for a customer. It's going to communicate your enthusiasm and the value of the assessment. So with that, let's dive in to take a look at the 4 assessment tools we're going to show you today. We're going to start with the interest assessment, and you will find that under Toolkit, Careers, and then you'll see interest assessment. Interests are a really great starting point for career planning because everyone relates to them. People in high school or college, experienced workers, even people who are retiring and planning an encore career. For everyone, interests are a really great framework to look at career ideas that fit what they like to do. So our CareerOneStop interest assessment is based on the Holland Code. This might look really familiar to you from other tools that you may have used. The self-directed search, strong interest inventory, or ONET's interest profiler, they all use the same system. And I want you to know this system has been validated across populations. And so that means it's been shown to accurately measure interests for people of varied backgrounds. And it also has proven reliability. And that means people will typically have consistent results over time if they take this repeatedly. When we planned to launch the interest assessment, we did meet with users. We talked to people about some of their values or their things, you know, features that they would like to see. And brevity came up over and over again. So we knew we wanted to try to keep it short. We asked ONET to shorten their 60-item interest profiler, and they were able to bring it down to 30 items while still maintaining the tool's accuracy. And so people can take it in as little as 5 to 10 minutes. It's pretty intuitive, and like all of our assessments, it renders well on a mobile device. This has become one of our most popular features on our entire website. So from this starting page, users just select their responses based on their level of interest in each activity. You can see item 1, build kitchen cabinets. A lot of us have never done that, right? So the guidance is, if you haven't had experience with an activity, just estimate your level of interest based on similar kinds of things that you've done. So with that, once they've responded to all 30 items, we move to the results page. Before we jump into this exciting list that people are often really eager to take a look at, I want to show you an important piece that can be overlooked. And I will say that if I were going to sit down with a customer or a client one-on-one, I would probably spend most of my time with this section, and that's up in the left corner, the Your Interests box. You just select the Details link, and you'll be able to learn about what these different categories of interest mean. So from the details link, I can see how my responses relate to these 6 interest categories. And then down below, I'm able to read a short description of each of those categories. And if you're not able to see this on the screen very clearly, the categories are realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. So what are these? These categories are collections of characteristics or traits that describe people, and they describe work environments or specific occupations. So one thing that you'll see is that some people will have a very clearly differentiated high 1 or 2 categories where clearly they've got a dedicated interest. And then some people really have a lot of curiosity about different interest themes and will have probably a little bit of a flatter profile that, you know, the bar graph will look similar across. We're usually going to focus on those strongest 2 to 3 interests. So that's a guidance that can help you even if people don't differentiate quite as well. I would tell customers that reading and thinking more about how you relate to your maybe 2 highest categories is really going to ground you and help you better understand the types of work you want to do. And I can see this in my own career and many people that I've worked with, regardless of what your job title or your employer, whoever they are, you're going to be drawn to certain work that suits you. And this helps you better articulate that and helps you better articulate it for yourself and for recognizing what you like when you see it and in job interviews. So here we're actually looking at my results. So I'll use this as an example. My highest interests are in social and artistic themes. People who score high in social often like to work with people to inspire, inform, help, train, or cure them. I really relate to this interest. I have a master's in counseling psychology. I have worked with people throughout my career to support them, to provide reliable information to them to make effective career decisions, and I really provide a lot of encouragement and support now through information. So that's a really strong area for me. Second highest category, artistic people like to work in unstructured situations using their imagination and creativity. And the way I relate to that is I really like variety in my work, and I love to bring an original spin to a project. As a writer, I get to do a lot of creative kind of development in website work, so that's another way that fits for me. Knowing all of this helps me clearly recognize work I like, what's a good fit for me, and it helps me describe that to others. So again, we encourage you to explore your interests and get comfortable with this language yourself. One question you might run into with your customers: what if I disagree with my results? They just don't really describe me. The way you can handle that, up at the top here in the left, back to results. And then you can select, on the results screen, you can select the change answers option at the upper left if you want to adjust those responses. The assessment will hold all of your previous answers. This is not going to reset and start over, but you can go through and kind of revisit some responses. And what I've often found in working with people is that they might have answered how they believe they should think, what they should like, versus what they actually like, right? You've probably seen this, whether it's family, parents, family members, the culture, the peer group, whatever it might be. People are going to get a better set of responses if they really trust what they like. So that takes us to, we're back on the results page. Let's look at our career matches. At the top of my results, I see the number of matches and how are these made? How did the system get to this? The interest assessment makes that profile of both your likes and your dislikes, and it compares that profile to the characteristics of different occupations. And the most similar matches are going to be listed in your results. I want to emphasize this again because we really work with all of us work with really diverse customers, so it's valuable to know with confidence that this system has been tested with different groups of people and is the most widely used career interest system in the country and I believe globally. So what you're going to see is your best matches first in alphabetical order, followed by kind of the great or medium, and then the good or lower level matches. I'll next see my occupation title, and you'll notice that these are linked. And clicking on the links for these occupation titles will take us out to their occupation profile. And we're going to take a look at those in just a few minutes. The next column we're going to see is the job outlook, and that is, essentially a measure of how strong the job market looks. If I click on those little arrows next to outlook, I'll be able to sort my list and bring up the strongest outlook jobs, careers up at the top. Next we have wages, and that's going to give you a national median wage, hourly wage. And if median is not a familiar term, that means half the people working in that field earn more in the United States currently working in that field. Half earn more, half earn less than this amount, and so it's right in the middle. Again, you can click on those arrows, and that will sort your results to show the highest wage occupations first. And then at the far right education level, that's the typical level needed to enter the field, and you can also sort your results by that. But I would also like to draw your attention to the left column where we see we have an education filter. And the difference with the filter is that's going to actually shrink my results. So if I click, for instance, on some preparation, that will give me a much shorter list that shows only the occupations that require a high school diploma or less occupation. And so that can be really helpful if I'm going to go ahead and print or use this list. And you can see the icons up at the top. On the left, I can choose print, or I can email the results. Over on the right at the top, I can go ahead and post these results to my social media account. Or all the way at the bottom of the list, I can download, and I have 4 different types of formats to download my results. Will you see some careers on your list that look kind of weird or kind of really this is not my thing? I would say yes, you probably will. Careers are complex, we know this, they're not one-dimensional, but some occupations on the list should be in the ballpark or even really great ideas for the user. So let's go ahead, after we're wrapping up our interest assessment, let's go ahead and go out and look at an occupation profile to learn about some of these occupations from my list. So here in this case, we're using radiologic technologists and technicians. We do have about 900 different profiles, different occupations that we profile. The data is sourced from the Occupational Information Network, known as ONET. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics provides data, U.S. Department of Education, and other authoritative sources. We're going to look at all these categories, or cards as we call them, but I really want to focus on 4 major topics that are so significant for most people for their career choice as they're kind of sorting through and exploring. First piece is, what is this job like? What do people do on a daily basis? Starting from the top card, the description, I learned that radiologic techs take x-rays and CAT scans. Great, very useful. On the right, I can watch a video. What does this career look like in real life? What do people actually do? And what are the kinds of workplaces that I might be working in? What do I wear? Who do I work with? Do I have customers, patients? Those kinds of pieces that really help to start evoking a mental picture that people really need as they're starting to see themselves. Could this be something that I do? The next piece is the job outlook. How likely is it that I'll be able to get work in this field? So the Outlook card gives us a general sense of the job market at a glance. Here we have an average growth. So that's going to look at somewhere in the 5 to 10% growth over the 10-year period that this data covers. A bright outlook, what is that referring to? It's how fast, it will show bright outlook if you've got a fast growth in an occupation or a large number of openings, or it will highlight new and emerging fields. So that's kind of a quick summary, but it's also useful to take a look at those actual numbers of workers in the field. So next to Outlook is projections, which shows the actual numbers currently and the expected number of job openings in 10 years, as well as the annual openings expected. And those are openings due to an increase in jobs created, so actual growth in number of people working in this field, plus replacing workers who leave due to retirement or attrition. The useful piece about projections too, here you can see that we've selected Maryland. So I will be able to see my own state's data and compare that to the US in general. And in here in Maryland, it's really useful to see that it's got much faster growth, 23% growth over these 10 years than for the country in general. So that's a really helpful piece for me to know. Our third essential piece of information for career choice is salary. Everyone wants to know what they could make, right? In the typical wages, we're going to see that range, which is useful because that's how the employment world works. Low end might be from more entry level, somebody with lower skills, somebody right out of an education program. We do tend to see lower pay in more rural areas where the cost of living is lower. The higher range, of course, is going to be for someone with more advanced skills, somebody who's been working in the field for a great deal of time, somebody and often there's some association with working in an urban area, higher cost of living. And then the fourth major piece of information that's critical at this stage is what training and education would I need to get into this field. Here it looks like I'd need a 2-year associate's degree with a major in this field to enter the career. And the links below will show me the training programs that would prepare me for this field. I can go right out to programs in my area if I've entered a location that offer this degree. So those are typically the most significant cards for career exploration, but there are more. I can learn about certifications related to this field and explore those. I can investigate professional licenses that are available in my state that might be required for me to practice this field. Connect with apprenticeship opportunities. The activities is going to give me more details on work tasks. I will be able to see knowledge, skills, and abilities needed for the occupation. And that can kind of help me get more of a sense of how does this fit with what I already know, the skills that I have, explore more of that match. And then below that is related occupations that can give me more ideas for different job titles to explore. So that is our occupation profile. As with all of our tools, there is a help page to learn more about the tool. And I will hand it to Tricia for our first poll.
Great, thanks, Julie. Yeah, we're going to take a quick break from going over the tools and bring up our first poll question. So let that come up on the screen. And our question for you all is, what barriers do your customers have around taking assessments? So we hope these online tools that we're looking at today are helpful, but we understand it's not always that easy for all of our users. So we would love to hear, again, what barriers your customers have around these assessments. And so we'll give you a couple moments here to send us an answer. Thank you as you're putting in those barriers. We appreciate that. it's great to know in case there's anything we can address on our current tools or as we develop additional tools in the future. This is just great for you to share with us. We'll keep that up for maybe just a couple more seconds here, and if the box disappears before you have time to answer, please go ahead and put it in the QA box as well. We'll be getting access to both of those at the end of the presentation, so that'll be very helpful. Great, thank you. I think we'll head over to our next tool. Again, if that box disappeared, please go ahead and put it in QA, the QA box for us. And now we're going to move over to our Skills Matcher tool. I'm going to bump down the size here just for a second so we can see more of the screen. So our Skills Matcher is our 40-question assessment that you take to rate your workplace skills and find careers that match their ratings. This tool is great for our users that have previous work or volunteer experience. Some less experienced job seekers find it difficult to rate their skills, and I'm going to show you an alternative to use with those audiences when we're done looking at this tool. And if I was looking for the Skills Matcher, again, I would go under the Toolkit, under Skills, oops, it jumped on me, Skills, and Skills Matcher is right there. Okay, so once I hit Start Skills Matcher, I'm going to see a screen of 10 skills. And again, what I'm going to want to do is take time to read each skill. So our first one is Administration and Management. And then I get a short little question. How much do you know about business planning and leadership? And it's asking me to rate on that 5-point scale. So from beginner to expert, how do I rate my skills? And what we've done is provide a little bit of text under 3 of those ratings. We call it anchor text in a way to help help a little bit with that rating. So a beginner level would be completing a timesheet. The skilled would be monitor project progress to complete it on time. And the expert is manage a $10 million company. Now, obviously, those are going to have to be translated to our individual experience and jobs or industries that we worked on, but they're kind of there again to provide that little extra help to determine that rating on that 5-point scale. Some of you might be surprised when we read both the beginner and the expert level, so I don't know if you were expecting an expert level to be managing a $10 million company or a beginner level to be completing a timesheet. And that, again, is definitely on purpose. So during the user research phase when we were putting this tool together, we heard from people and we saw when they were taking the tool how hard it was to rate their skills and be accurate at that. And so we tend to either rate ourselves too high or too low. So if that was kind of that anchor text took you by surprise, again, that is on purpose to kind of really get you thinking about, are you an expert in that? Is that the highest level you have? Or are you possibly rating yourself too low and you actually have a higher level of that skill? So hopefully people really take the time to sit with those ratings and think about how that translates into their own experience. Okay, so once I've gone through and you see some of these are already selected, I can change any of those as I go through, and I'll get 4 screens of 10 skills to rate. And when I'm done, my results are going to look like this screen. So my ratings found 150 careers that match the profile. So right away I see kind of a similar result screen to that what we were just looking at on the interest assessment that Julie walked us through. I get my results ranked, so the best match is at the top. I see the career listed, and again, if I wanted to, I could link out to the occupation profile that we just looked at. And then I see the columns of data. So I see the annual median wage, I see the typical education, and then I see that employment outlook rating as well. Just like in the other tool, I could use this drop-down to sort by any of those features. So if I wanted to see my list alphabetical or reverse alphabetical, I could change wages, education, and Outlook as well using that feature. And then I could also, on the left-hand side, filter by education. Just like Julie was describing with the interest assessment, we often hear if people are dissatisfied with the results, often it can be because it's not the typical education required is not matching their expectations. So sometimes it can be too high and not feel like it's an obtainable list of results, or sometimes it might be too low that it's not the education at their current level or what they're hoping to obtain. So that's a definitely important filter as we're kind of helping people walk through whether this is a good list of matches for them. So when I'm looking at my list of results, obviously this can be used for exploring ideas that are a match for my skills, and I may consider careers that I haven't before. This is obviously great for our career changer and dislocated worker audiences. We know we keep hearing this is a time of reshuffling where people are really thinking about different occupational options, so this can be a great tool if they want to use their existing skills and leverage them in new ways. Obviously, I can compare my matches really easily in this table format and using those sorting features, and I can link out to the occupation profile for more information if I'm interested in an occupation. There's one more thing that we can do with these results, and it's in this box on the left called Your Skills. There's a link to see your full list of skills. And if we click on that link, this is what the page looks like. And it's just a list of those skills that I rated the highest first, and then the skills that I rated the next highest, and then the skills I rated the lowest. And what I could do with this is once I've taken the tool, I could download it and use this information in a resume. So just write a resume that's based more on the skills that I feel I have the highest level on. Here's the definition included, so I could use some of that text in my resume. I could use it to prepare for an interview, so if I get questions like, what could you do for my organization, or what skills do you bring, I could definitely refer to this list to help prepare. I could also bring it when I'm meeting with a counselor, so this is something you might want people to do before they meet with you, to have taken any of these tools and either bring the results or bring a page like this to have that conversation about the skills they want to leverage in a new career. And it might be helpful too for some of our audiences with barriers to employment to really focus on the skills that they're bringing to a job. So workers like workers with a criminal conviction or older workers, really focusing on what they can do and to boost their confidence. So as we kind of looked at when we were on the rating screen, it's really great to encourage our users to take time with this assessment and really engage in those levels and anchor text to make the rating go smoothly. Just so you know, this tool is based on ONET skill, knowledge, and ability, or KSA data, and it uses a statistical formula behind the scenes to compare your 40 skill ratings to the KSA ratings for those 900 different ONET occupations to find those that most closely match the rating profile that you generated. The other data in our results, like the wages, education, and Outlook data, all come from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And I did mention that this tool isn't going to be for everyone and can be a little bit intimidating with those ratings. So I do just want to bring up on the screen, and again, this direct link to this page is in that download file in the file share box. This is just a simple skills checklist. It's on our Get My Future website for youth and young adults. And if rating skills is not where our user is at, maybe this checklist can be a way to have that beginner conversation about what are different skills, and just a simple check it if that's something you have done before, or leave it blank if you had not. So I just want to mention we have some other skills content and materials like this checklist if that would be more appropriate for some of the audiences you're working with. Okay, and now I'm going to hand it back to Julie.
Great, thanks, Tricia. Our newest career exploration tool is the Work Values Matcher, and I continue to feel really excited about its relevance for job seekers. Values are at the heart of so much job satisfaction. This is also available under the Toolkit, Careers, and then Work Values as our other assessments. There's a lot of research around work values, and that knowing your work values and aligning with them in your decisions can help put you on the right track. They're associated with motivation and engagement in work, feeling a sense of purpose, generally feeling more confidence and commitment in your career. And then on the other hand, and many of us have experienced this, right? Working in a job or a workplace that contradicts your values, that can lead to confusion, disengagement, and really discouragement. So there's really a lot of good reason to clarify your values and to seek a workplace and a job that relate to them. Something I find interesting, and I'm curious about your experience, but that as important as this dimension of a career decision is, it may never even come up in conversation. With customers, they may not give it much thought. So I'd really especially encourage you to emphasize a values focus for people who are in a transition or who need to kind of set that new direction for themselves. So I think about students graduating at any level, completing a training program. I think about laid off workers or people returning after time out of the workforce. And I definitely think about the large numbers of people resigning from their jobs that we keep reading about to look for something better. So this is a really meaningful piece to include in your own toolkit. How does it work? We're looking at a card sort. This is not the typical way to do career assessment, but this card sort is based on the work values content on ONET. It's going to ask you to rank 20 statements, one at a time, for their level of importance to you, from most to least. So these statements describe qualities or traits of a job or a workplace. So, for example, the first statement, how important is it to me to use my talents and abilities on the job? I would say that's most important. So I can drag and drop a card to my rating level, most important, or I can just put my cursor on the correct column and click it, and the card will go ahead and move there. Once you've put a card in a column, it's easy to move them. You can drag and drop them in the new column, or you can select that X in the upper right corner, and that will put the card back on the deck, and that gives you a second chance to reassign it to the correct column. For those of you who have customers who use accessibility technology, I want to note all of this functionality, or this functionality is available through the keyboard. So the piece that I call the magic of this tool, it happens when you find that you are limited to only 4 cards in every category. And you really have to decide which conditions or features of work that these cards describe, which ones are really actually essential. And if you're forced to make a choice, which you could let go. So my favorite tester of all the content that we're developing is my son. He's 23 now, and he gets to take everything that we develop. So he took this as we were preparing to launch the Work Values Matcher. I trust him, and believe me, he really lets me know his opinion. And he kind of flew along and was kind of relating that he didn't think there was too much to this assessment. And then he realized he could only choose 4 most important statements. And it took much longer than to contemplate what he could let go of in terms of that ideal work situation when push comes to shove. And so he discovered a lot more about his true priorities. So with this tool, it often does take some time for users to sort, but people often find it quite engaging and pretty gratifying. So when I've rated the importance of all 20 statements, I can see what my ratings tell me. and we're going out to the results page to see that the algorithm has provided a translation of my priorities into work values. So I can quickly see in my chart which values are most to least important to me. And again, if this is a little hard for you to see, there are 6 universal values used in this system: achievement, independence, recognition, relationships, support, and working conditions. Down below, I can read a short definition of each of these values, and then if I want to learn more about any of them, I can click the Learn About link. Clicking on that takes me to this page that helps me crosswalk my personal work values with an employer's values or a workplace culture. So this page is going to describe some ways that you can observe or discover an employer's values and really try to suss out and figure out how your values will mesh with theirs. So we really see this as the most powerful way to use your workplace values to help you discern how to look at job opportunities that you're considering, or how to even target a job search to the types of employers that are going to have a workplace culture that you're going to want to really be in and can really see yourself succeeding in. This page also includes questions to ask at informational interviews, networking meetings, job interviews, to help elicit that understanding of the culture that an employer might offer, which can be kind of hard to see. So next, I can go back up to the top of this page and use the blue link to see careers for this work value. So values also relate to career choice, and I can, on this page, select my education level to see the relevant careers. So for example, here we're taking a look at accountants and auditors. They show up in the list of independence occupations, and we can know that this is telling us that relative to other types of work, there's typically more independent decision-making in this career. So that's really useful for us to know. But also, I'll come back to this because it's so important. An accountant at different employers, different organizations, is going to experience some workplace values that will really influence their job. For example, an accountant who works for a nonprofit organization is probably going to see more support and relationship values emphasis than an accountant who is at a Fortune 500 firm, for example, where recognition and achievement and some of that kind of drive are probably more emphasized. So the employer and the mission of the organization where you do this occupation play a major role in how you're going to experience or express your work values, and by extension, how you're going to thrive in a workplace. So we really want to deepen your understanding of that in the work values matcher. And that is our work values matcher. Back to Tricia.
Thanks, Julie. Okay, so next is our last tool, the fourth one, My Skills, My Future. And it is a skills transferability tool to learn how to leverage your existing skills in a new career. Like the skills matcher, it's great for individuals with previous work or volunteer experience because it's going to do that matching on a job title I've had in the past. So again, great for dislocated workers or career changers or anyone changing an occupation or what they might be interested in doing based on experience they've had in the past. But unlike the skills matcher, you don't have to know and understand your level of skill or rate them. So that can just be, this can be an easier tool for some people to use for sure. This is one of those sites that it's available in the CareerOneStop footer if you go down to our sites, or you can put myskillsmyfuture.org in your browser window to access this tool. So to begin, what I do is I put a current or past job in the entry box and then click on Find My Career Matches. And when I do that, my list of results shows in this table format again. So I'm finding careers that might be a good match for computer user support specialist is the example that I used. And right away I see a lot of great information that's going to help me compare my career matches on this list, but we're going to dig into those details when we look at the actual profile for a career match. So we'll get into those just a little bit later. My results are ordered by best match, so it's not surprising that I'm seeing other IT-related occupations on this list. But as I scroll down, I do see some that are maybe a little bit different, like broadcast technicians, for example, might be more in that arts, audio, visual technology cluster more than IT. So I'm seeing a little bit of differentiation. Some examples are going to be more apparent than this. I'm seeing a lot of IT ones on this list. One great feature of this tool is actually the ability to generate a new list of matches based on my work preference. And it's unique to the My Skills, My Future tool. And that's this narrow your results button at the top right side of the page. And when I click on that, I'm going to bump us up a little bit because this can be hard to see. I get a box that opens up that allows me to take some types of careers off of my results list as possible matches. So for example, maybe I have a physical limitation that impacts how much weight I could lift or carry. I'm going to want to select physical strength, so any careers that require a higher level of physical strength are not in my matches. And you'll see other examples. Maybe I'm not interested in doing any public speaking or working outdoors. Maybe I have vision or hearing concerns that I want to take those occupations off my list. I can click any of those and then select Show Results. It's important to note that this does not filter your list, so it's not going to limit the number of matches you get. You're always going to get 25 matches. It's just going to, again, take any of those with the pieces that you've selected off of your list. So I'm still going to get 25 matches, but now any requiring physical strength are going to be off of my list. So now as I'm looking at this list, I also see another unique feature of this tool, which is this Compare Skills link. And I'm going to show you what that page looks like. So let's say, for example, this computer network support specialist occupation looks a little interesting, but I'm just wondering what the comparison is between those two careers. This link gives me a really nice quick snapshot of the main differences between my occupation of interest and my prior occupation. So I can compare the mid-level salary of those two, so I see right away that it's potentially possible that I will earn more as a computer network support specialist. And I also see the similar skills and knowledge, so I see why I'm getting that match on my list. But then I also see quickly the gaps. So where might I have a skill gap between those occupations? So for example, telecommunications a higher level might be required in my occupation of interest, as well as communications and media and administrative. And if that is something I want to pursue more, then I can also follow these links to find training for that gap. So what would it look like to get a higher level of knowledge in some of those areas? Under the comparison, I can see the typical level of education and training required. So my occupation of interest may require a 2-year associate degree, where a degree is not required for my current occupation. And I can get some general licensing and certification details for those two occupations as well. I'm still interested in this career and learning more about it, so I'm going to head back to my career matches page and select Computer Network Support Specialist from that list. And that will bring me to the profile page where I can get a lot of more information about that career. So even though it's laid out a little bit differently, you're going to see that it's a lot of the same information in the occupation profile that Julie walked us through as well. I can see that career video, the job video, that's going to be the same as the one we saw in CareerOneStop. I get a general description of what I'm going to do on that job. I can get back quickly to that compare skills link again if I would like to see that. I get the basic labor market information, so how many are employed, what are the projected annual job openings, and then the typical wages and salary. Now, right now it's just displaying national information, but if I was interested, I could up here and choose a location, put any city, state, or zip code in, and it'll update that data appropriately. I can again see the typical training of this new career of interest. I can see the typical job duties and the tools and technology used on the job. Up at the top, I also want to point out that this navigation bar will also let me dig into more of the details, so I can go again to that training information, that compare skills page again, find the current job openings for this career, as well as employers or businesses in my area. So a ton of information, and I think all of this information helps me decide whether or not to pursue this as a job choice or go back to my list of matches and see what else might be of interest. So obviously this tool lets me explore a lot of different career ideas that are a match for my skills, and it allows me to consider different careers and possibly different clusters of careers I may not have considered before. I can compare my matches like I did with the other tools, and I can also use this tool to understand my skill gaps and what I can do about it. So maybe I want to create a training plan for next steps if there's an occupation of interest and I have some gaps. And again, it could help me write a more impactful resume or prepare for an interview about how I'm qualified and what skills I bring from previous experience. So as you can see, there's a lot to explore on this tool, and so we really encourage people to spend a lot of time and visit all the related information in the different areas of this tool. The information in My Skills, My Future is primarily from ONET, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and a couple different CareerOneStop sources like certification data. And if you're ever curious about the data used on a specific page, up at the top in the right-hand corner is a question mark icon in blue, and that will always give you more details about each section. Okay, that wraps it up for My Skills, My Future. I'm going to hand it back to Julie again.
Thank you, Tricia. We have a second poll. If you take a minute, we would like to know what other types of career-related assessments would you like to see on CareerOneStop? And we've already started to get some input, which is great. You can just go ahead and type in your response. Nice. Interesting. All right, this is great. Very interesting. This is so useful to us, and I do want you to know, as we do user research for all of our tools and new content development, your input is something we will absolutely consider with a lot of seriousness, so this is exciting for us to see. If people have additional ideas, you are welcome to continue to enter those in the chat once the poll is closed. With that, we're coming toward the end of our webinar. We have developed a page that is just for you, so we can go ahead and close that poll. The Career Advisor page, this holds a variety of resources that we develop because we know so many intermediaries rely on our tools. So this offers PowerPoints, recorded webinars, user guides, videos, and more. These are all available to you to use for your staff training or adapt for a class or workshop. Right up at the top, you'll see there is a link to the CareerOneStop overview video. Share that with your colleagues. It's a great way to kind of get to know quickly what we have to offer. The webinar series, those are the webinars that we've presented here on Workforce GPS. And today's webinar will soon be added so that you can go ahead and refer back to the PowerPoint and the recording, and then also the list of all the sites that we use. Those are included for each of the webinars. And then down below, we have additional curriculum and things that, we very much welcome you to adapt for your own needs and your own uses. So with that, we are wrapping up our webinar presentation. We do provide contact information here for Tricia and for me, and we genuinely welcome your feedback or your questions you have about something you've seen on CareerOneStop today, or suggestions you might have for us for future webinar topics. We really appreciate your attending today. It's great to have you all here. Let's get to our questions. Danielle is going to help us walk through the questions that you've put into chat.
Great. Thank you, Julie, and thank you guys for a great presentation. I will dive right in. We do have a hard stop at 2:30. And the first question is, it's two parts. Are there CareerOneStop locations in Atascosa County, Texas? And does CareerOneStop offer computers to members of the public to search for jobs?
Yeah, I can take that, Danielle. So are there CareerOneStop locations in, am I saying it right, Atascosa County, Texas? I'm probably butchering that. I apologize. I assume there is, but a great way to find that out is our Find America Job Centers. So we do work closely with the U.S. Department of Labor to make sure all of the one-stop locations are in that Finder tool. If you're putting in your state or your zip code and you're not finding a location, please contact us, because that means something is missing, but it shouldn't be. So hopefully that information is there. And does CareerOneStop offer computers to members of the public to search for jobs? No, we do not. So that's why we point people to the American Job Center locations to be able to use those computers in person. We just provide the online resources and put them on the internet for people to access. So hopefully that answers the question.
All right, great. Thanks so much, Tricia. Keep us going. Will there be an option when logging at Salary Finder, filtering by level of experience and level of education?
Oh, that's great. Great suggestion. No, our Salary Finder right now just returns the data by location and whatever occupation you've entered, but no, it doesn't filter for levels of experience or education, but we appreciate you passing that on as an idea for us to consider.
Hey, thanks, Tricia. Okay, now Julie, you're up. Could adult education be added to the Find Local Help section?
We do actually offer adult basic education. It's under the Find Training tab. So under Find Training, we have profiled different types of training, and adult basic education is that second entry. So we do offer that information there. Good suggestion on including that in Find Local Help. Thanks.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Julie. And another one for you. Do we have to pay to use this resource?
This is something we are always so happy to be able to say. There is no cost. There is no cost. There's no cost. So assessments especially, right? This can be a really big budget item for programs. These assessments are all free to use, and they're available to everyone, all users, intermediaries as well. So no cost.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Julie. And Tricia, back to you. Who are the employers who can see the resumes of clients that get uploaded in CareerStop and listed as public?
Oh, good question. So we actually, on CareerOneStop, we don't have a way for users to upload their resumes. We do post jobs on the site, but it always directs back to either the state job bank or the employer's website for the end user to do any applying or updating or uploading their resume. So that's not a service we have on CareerOneStop.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tricia. And another question for you. It says, the problem I have with these kind of assessments is how would someone know whether they're interested in developing a new medicine if they have no idea what that would involve? Who has any kind of experience doing that?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I can understand where that question is coming from. So I'm assuming that is in reference to the interest assessment, and I think Julie mentioned, kind of commented on that it might be hard to really know if you're interested in it, and so you kind of have to take it in the context of, does that seem like something I would be interested in doing, working with medicine, you know, in the development? You kind of have to pick it apart a little, and I think this is a good question for us to bring back to our team, that maybe there's things around the instructions or in the help text that maybe you can provide some help around that question. So thanks for posing it to us.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Tricia. And Julie, you have two questions. The first one is, can we get the longer version of the assessment as well?
So I think that must be referring to our interest assessment. And so the 60-item interest profiler is an ONET tool. So if you go to ONET, you will be able to use their longer version, yes.
Okay, and I'm assuming the same question has to do with the previous one, and it says, how does this help you?
I'm sorry, what's the question, Danielle?
It says, how does this help youth? I think they're referring to the assessment.
If it's referring to the interest assessment, how does it help you? It identifies the kinds of traits or characteristics you would like to, that you would tend to like either in a job or career or in a work environment. So it's going to help you really focus in on the kinds of work that you are more likely to enjoy and like, and therefore be more successful at.
Excellent. Thank you, Julie. Sounds good. And for you, Tricia, are the hourly wages national averages? Is there a way to get to a state level?
Yeah, excellent question. So on the results pages of the tools that we looked at, yes, those are all national figures that are given. But when you click into the occupation profile for any of those tools, that's where you can change your location input on the occupation profile to either be a state, a city, or a zip code, and then you can get to your state or your local wage data. So that is absolutely a possibility as you link out on any of those tools.
Awesome. The next question is, again for you, Tricia, is the outlook based on local trends or national?
Yeah, so that outlook that we were looking at on the occupation profile is national. That is also from ONET, so that's looking just nationally. But again, and maybe it'd be helpful if I could bring it up. My cursor wanted to run away from me. There were kind of those two cards on the occupation profile. So outlook, will there be jobs? That is the national piece that I'm referring to. But projected employment, because Julia had put in Maryland, we're getting that state employment outlook data along with the national. So you can kind of get both depending on which card you're looking at.
Got it, perfect. And I think that also answers the next question, which was, can we filter hourly wages depending on the state?
Oh, right. So the assessment results don't let you get state-based information. You'd have to go out to the occupation profile to get that.
Got it. All right. Thank you, Tricia. And Julie, we're passing it back to you. And the question is, if local libraries and American Job Centers, such as the ones listed at the link below and it's here in the chat box, have limited hours, would you please offer suggestions on where else members of the public could get access to computers during the evenings and on weekends to continue their job search?
That's a good question. I would have said libraries, but I guess they included libraries in that question. I guess that's a really important community-based question. Sometimes two-year colleges have services that are open to the public. I don't think I'm going to be able to come up with a lot of great recommendations there. I bet others on this webinar probably have more ideas than I do.
Yeah, sure. Okay, that's great too. Let us know in the chat if anybody has any other suggestions. Thank you. Okay, and Julie, would you please go over how a user saves their results?
So from any of the inventories, we don't currently have a save function. We are developing a user account that will allow folks who open an account to go ahead and save results to that. But we do offer the option to print, email, or download results or post them to social media. So one of those systems would usually be should be an option for people who want to keep their results to look at again.
Okay, here's more of it's a question. It said that there used to be paper copies of assessments through ONET, but not sure if that is still available.
ONET does maintain an option, I think, to download a paper copy of some of their tools. I'm not a real expert on all that they have. I'm not sure if Don knows more than I do.
No, unfortunately, I'm not very familiar with the ONET assessment tools and the paper copies that are available. Sorry.
Okay, all right, thank you both. All right, Julie, one more question before we bounce back to Tricia, and it says, we know the interest profiler is available to embed. Are the others able to be integrated as well?
Yeah, we've got a lot of options back in the footer. We have under for developers, you can link to us, link to tools, do some data downloads, and then our web API allows you to actually use our tools on your own site. So just encourage people to go ahead and explore those options down in the footer where the heading is for developers. And that should answer that question.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, bouncing back to you, Tricia. Can you please show how the user can save their results, in the interactive system, not as a download?
Yeah, so Julie just addressed this. Not until we have user accounts will you be able to actually save your end results, aside from the functionality we have now to either download or print or email those results. So we agree that we want you to be able to just save and share those results. So it'll be coming soon.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, we have a 15-minute warning, so I'm going to scan through a couple. Please be patient. So is this a good site for Justice Involved? And that will be to Julie.
Really happy to hear that question. Down in that footer again, you can see that we have a website. It's our shorthand version is ex-offenders. Job Search Help for Ex-Offenders is a site we have dedicated to folks who have a criminal record. So it's a full job search, career exploration site for that purpose. We do also have a resource for people who are incarcerated. We do have the entire CareerOneStop website and all the tools with closed links. so that it can be used inside correctional facilities, and closed links meaning there's no internet access off of the site, but within the site they can obtain all the information on the site. So yes, it is a great site for people with the criminal record or who are incarcerated.
Right, awesome. Thank you so much. And again, for Julie, what if my occupation matches differ for my interests versus my values?
What if, I'm sorry, what was that again?
Mm-hmm. What if my occupation?
Oh, if your occupation list is different for your interests and your values, I see. Yeah, you know, that is something, it's probably more typical that people will see a good deal of overlap, but they don't always. And I think it's a really legitimate question. I think, you know, there's sort of this ideal triad of assessing your interests, skills, and values as we took a look at today. And I think if you've got overlap, that's great. If you don't, I think that folks need to kind of take a look at some of those data pieces, the labor market information, the demand, the salary, the viability of pursuing an occupation in their area, and how much training they're willing to acquire, and kind of sort it out that way. I also think that some people will feel very, very strongly about their personal values and want to really focus on those pieces for their work, and others are not as inclined that way, and I think then interest might just rise to the top.
Excellent. Thank you, Julie. Okay, Tricia, how do you keep updated on apprenticeships and certificates for each state?
Oh, great question. I'm assuming they mean how do we do those updates at CareerOneStop. So apprenticeship information actually comes from another Department of Labor initiative, apprenticeship.gov. So we don't keep up. we refer out to them for the latest information about apprenticeship opportunities. As far as certifications, that is a data source that CareerOneStop does in-house. So we have a team that continuously, on an ongoing basis, scans for new opportunities. We have some associations that accredits different things that we go to for that information. So that's a continuous process. So if you ever find something that you're wondering why it isn't in CareerOneStop, please use that contact us link at the bottom in our footer to send it our way. We always appreciate that, but that is something we're updating on an ongoing basis.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And the next couple questions are for either of you, and it says our State Department of Labor continues to be closed to the public. Is this the same for other states?
Yeah, I can mention that we do see that in other states as well, that some are still offering virtual services, and that is something we have when you use our Find American Job Center. We do have the option for states to add a message about how their services are being delivered during this time. So that's hopefully when users are searching for an American Job Center location in their state or local area, they would get that information as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And another question is anything specific to veterans? This person might have missed that. Does any of this information pertain to veterans?
We do have a complete website dedicated to veterans and military transition folks, people who are transitioning out of military service. So there in the footer, you can go right out to the Veteran and Military Transition Center. And so this is a really comprehensive site, all targeted resources for everything from exploring civilian careers and taking a look at how do I transition those skills and training that I accumulated in the military into the civilian world, training options, GI Bill, all the kind of financial resources available, job search, benefits, and so on. So all of that is, yes, very great question, and we love to promote this site.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. And we have one more question, which is pretty easy for either of you, is do you have an app that is compatible with phones?
Yeah, we do. So thanks for that question. Again, if you go all the way down to our footer in the Connect with Us, there is a link to mobile apps. And there you would find information on the CareerOneStop app that's available in both stores, and it has most of our tools, I would say, definitely all of the popular ones, and then most of our Finder tools as well that you can use in app form. So thanks for that question.
All right, well, awesome. Well, thank you so much. We did have a couple other questions, but they were repetitive, and you guys already addressed them. So I don't know if you all had any more closing comments before we close out.
No, just thanks again for everyone for joining us. We hope that this was useful and that you will use these tools and let us know what we can do to help out with any questions you have after today.
All right, well, great. Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation, and thank you everyone who joined us today. We appreciate it. And please, just a reminder about the file share, the PowerPoint, and the webinar is available, and the recording will be available in a few days. So thank you so very much for joining us today, and please come back. We hope to see you soon.